it's Melanie. Welcome to my channel. Today is part 2 of the Once Upon a Book Club Bookish Advent Calendar. So stay tuned. So if you watched part 1 of this unboxing, you know that Once Upon a Book Club, one of my favorite subscription boxes, has created a 12 Days of Book-mas Advent Calendar box. And it's the first bookish Advent calendar I have ever found, and I'm so excited about this. I love their Once Upon a Book Club subscription box. I love their Once Upon a Book Club phone case subscription box. And I am loving this bookish Advent calendar. I think it is so great. So if you watched part 1, you know that for each day there is a little short story, and I'm reading the short story and then opening the gift. And we got, for the first 4 days, we got a book, a bookmark, a mug, and an apron that was like a bookish apron. And they're all fabulous. And so the videos weren't too incredibly long. I decided to split it up into 3. So today I'm going to unbox the day 5, 6, 7, and 8. So let's read day 5. There were not many people who visited Brookside Assisted Living to see Rebecca Graham, but she was kept so busy with the many activities and the going-ons of her neighbors that she hardly seemed to notice. At the age of 82, she knew that her children had lives of their own, but sometimes she wished they'd stop by more than the obligatory twice a year, or in the case of her son, at least call her once in a while. One morning, as she was getting ready for the day, a soft knock on her door startled her out of her regular routine. She slid her feet back into her slippers and padded across the floor before opening the door for a peek. Standing just outside, a young girl stood smiling. "Hello, ma'am. I attend the local high school, and we are spending some time getting to know those in our community. Would I be able to talk to you for a little while?" For being so young, likely no older than 16, the girl was quite well spoken. Rebecca had seen the other students walking around the facility before, but none had ever selected her from the list of residents to visit with. "Oh, of course, that sounds lovely," Rebecca replied before noticing she was still in her nightgown. "I just have to finish getting ready. I'll meet you in the parlor in about 15 minutes. The girl smiled a familiar smile and nodded before turning to walk away. As Rebecca shut the door, she realized she didn't get the girl's name, but shrugged as she knew where to find her. Rebecca skipped a rather large portion of her routine since she knew she had company waiting. She tried to repress her giddiness at the fact that someone was there solely for her, reminding herself this was something they had to do. The kids never stuck around after their designated time, and then it would be back to the mundane normalcy of Brookside. As she made her way down the stairs, she caught glimpses of her friends through their open doors, chatting with other students. She realized she couldn't help but build up this meeting. It had been 8 months since she had last had a visitor, and she forgot how nice it was to have someone to talk to. When she reached the lobby, she took a sharp left into the parlor and found her student sitting on one of the love seats, scrolling through her phone. As Rebecca approached, the young girl looked up and smiled that same familiar smile and slid over to make room for the old woman as she made herself comfortable. "I don't believe I learned your name, so why don't we start there?" Rebecca wasn't sure how these kinds of situations usually went, but she didn't want to sit in silence for 3 hours. "Actually, that's why I'm here and why I chose you to speak with today." The confidence of the girl had suddenly been replaced by shyness and a hint of anxiety, which piqued Rebecca's curiosity. "My name is Alana Graham," Alana said as she looked up at Rebecca. "I've been in the foster system since I was 3, and I never really knew either of my parents. My dad left before I was born, so I never knew him, but I think he was your son, which makes me your granddaughter." Rebecca experienced a wave of emotion as Alana was speaking, from shock to sadness to gratitude for whatever force had helped this young girl find her. "My sweet Alana, my granddaughter?" Rebecca choked out as she embraced her granddaughter for the first time, cherishing the love that enveloped them even though they had only just met. The two spent the next 6 hours talking, learning about each other, and sharing many more hugs and tears when it was finally time to part. Rebecca asked Alana to walk her back up to her room, and the young girl took the old woman's arm and led her gently back up the stairs. "I'm really glad I met you today." Alana smiled again, and in a flash Rebecca knew why it was so familiar. It was her own. Rebecca asked Alana to give her just a moment, disappearing into her room. A few minutes later she returned, holding a square package in her arms. "I wanted to give this to you before you left," as she pressed the teal package into Alana's hands. "I know you're hardly family after only meeting once, but you have no idea what it means to have someone visit me. When I felt alone or misunderstood, this book helped me through it, and I hope it can do the same for you." Alana peeled back the teal snowman paper and found a worn copy of A Boy Made of Blocks by Keith Stuart. She said nothing for a moment, but then she reached up and hugged her new relative tightly to her. "I didn't even tell you how much I love books," she murmured, overcome with appreciation for this woman who knew her so little yet seemed to know her so well. The two parted ways, but Alana returned every week with a new book for the two of them to discuss. She was never late, she never missed her visits, and the grandmother she had never known became the grandmother she had always wanted. Similarly, Rebecca didn't expect anything extraordinary to happen to her when that soft knock came on her apartment door, but Alana taught her that the greatest things happen when we least expect them. Aww. Okay, so now we can open day 5, and it's the same teal snowman paper that they talked about in the story. Okay, let's open it up. I think I know what it is. So we got another book, and this one's A Boy Made of Blocks by Keith Stuart. And it's blue with some white font. Let's see what this says. A beautiful and tender read, A Boy Made of Blocks reminds us that sometimes our world has to crumble before we can build it back up again. Alex is estranged from his family. After 9 years of marriage, his wife, Jody, has asked him to leave. She can't stand the bickering and what she considers to be her husband's inability to be there for their 8-year-old son, Sam. And she's not wrong. Alex loves Sam deeply, but he doesn't know how to reach him. Sam is a beautiful child. Born with thick brown hair and big sultry lips, he looks like a miniature Mick Jagger. But right from the start, he was difficult. He seemed livid just to be in the world. When Sam received a diagnosis of autism, his parents were relieved. Now they could put a name to their son's behavior, maybe come up with a plan. But labels only get you so far. They don't help you sleep. They don't stop you from getting angry and frustrated, which is how Alex finds himself living with his best friend and sleeping on the world's most uncomfortable blow-up bed. Alex wants his family back, but as he tries to navigate life as a part-time father, he knows that first he has to understand the puzzle of his family. He has that in common with his son, because to Sam, the world is a puzzle he can't solve. Until that is, he starts to play Minecraft. The game creates a safe space for Sam. It gives the boy a new vocabulary and the confidence to use it. Soon, Alex and Sam are playing Minecraft together. As they build fortresses and fight foes, they come together in a way they never could before. At last, father and son can begin to rediscover themselves and each other. But can one fragmented family put themselves together again, one piece at a time? Inspired by the author's experiences with his own son, A Boy Made of Blocks is an astonishingly authentic story of love, family, and autism. Aww! I'm looking forward to reading this. Absolutely. Alright, day 6. Miss Martinez could not wait for the holiday break. The time between the start of the school year and the first week off dragged at a snail's pace, but she was looking forward to it finally arriving when the last bell rang at the end of the day today. Of all the teachers in Stafford Middle School, Mrs. Martinez would be the first to tell you how much she loved her job. She adored spending time with her students and getting to know them. She loved teaching English and allowing her students to fall in love with reading, something many of them didn't like when they first entered her classroom. Most of all, however, she loved sending them off to high school, knowing that they had learned something in their time with her as she guided them through the world of literature and composition. Lately, however, she felt that her students weren't getting as much out of her class as they used to. Not only did she have to wake students up during class much more often than she felt she had in the past, she felt like she had to try so much harder to even keep them awake to begin with. As much as Peggy Martinez loved being a teacher, it was beginning to wear her down, and she hated to imagine a day where she didn't love her job anymore. She sat at her desk looking out the classroom window, hoping that maybe a holiday break was just what not only she, but also her students needed to get back on track for the remainder of the school year. Student visitors had stopped coming by during lunch to ask questions about her assignments, so she didn't think to shut her classroom door as she pulled out her sandwich and began to eat, lost in thought. A few minutes before the bell rang to send students back to their classes from lunch, a sharp knock snapped Mrs. Martinez out of her trance. Kyle Walker stood in her doorway, a student she never thought she'd see outside of the mandatory time he had to spend in her classroom to remain on the baseball team. Miss Martinez? She'd learned students stopped using the full Mrs. a few years ago, and she had given up trying to correct them. Kyle, what can I do for you? She dabbed at her mouth with her napkin and waited as he looked around the room nervously, as though he hadn't been seated at his desk there just a few hours prior. I just wanted to say, have a good holiday, he mumbled, though he didn't turn to leave. Oh, well, thank you, Kyle. I hope you do as well. She watched him, curious as to why he continued to hover close enough to the door and appeared to be debating making a run for it. Kyle, I'm happy to help you if you have something else on your mind. She stood and walked over to him, this small boy who would soon grow taller than she was. I just wanted to give you this. He held out his hand and dropped a small object into her palm. A small red enamel book pen, which read, "The book was better," lay in her hand as she looked curiously back up at the boy she was growing more intrigued by the second. What's this for? She was truly taken aback by the gesture and hoped he didn't think she was scolding him. Well, you remember how we read Paper Towns a few weeks ago? She nodded, encouraging him to continue. My sister found the movie online, so we watched it, and well, you know, they messed up a lot with that movie. It wasn't like the book at all, and I was really disappointed. She could feel herself smiling before she could even think about stopping it. I just wanted you to know that I was really glad we read the book. I don't think I would have gotten as much out of it if I had just watched the movie. So, thank you, and have a good holiday. He slipped out of the classroom door into the crowd of students parading by before she could say anything to him, not even a thank you. But she knew where he'd be come January, and she was truly ashamed to have judged him so harshly when he had first appeared in her classroom unannounced. She rubbed the pen between her fingers and smiled once more, replaying his words in her head, and recognizing the impact her teaching had made on this young mind. She pinned the small brooch to her lapel and stood tall before turning on her heel and walking back to her desk. Mrs. Martinez was looking forward to a holiday break, it was true, but she was also eager to return to teaching when it was over, for she truly did love her job. Okay, now for the day 6 gift, which is in this envelope here with cute little snowman. And it is the Book Was Better enamel pen. Cute. All right, day 7. I like socks. In fact, I've always liked socks. They're probably my favorite article of clothing, even though I don't wear any. I just like to take them. My parents don't think it's very nice of me to take things that don't belong to me, but I just like to keep them safe for when they need them. They always know where to look, so it's not like they went missing. They're just someplace new. Most people don't understand that dogs like me are just trying to stay close to our parents. When they leave for work, we really miss them. So having their socks to sleep on is a nice comfort until they come home. It is true that sometimes I steal things that aren't socks. One time I took a pillow off the couch and pulled it into my crate. It was really comfy, but Mommy didn't like the smell. I don't know what the big deal is. Our whole house smells like me. Dad started training me a new trick the other day. I don't know why, but he makes me play fetch with things he doesn't throw. I have to bring him things like the remote. He's so lazy. He even made me bring him the sock that I was saving for his long work day. I was sad to give that up, but he asked me for it and I can't say no to him. I just love him so much. There are a bunch of square things in my house now. They're covered with shiny paper and some of them make noise when I nudge them with my nose, though my parents don't want me near them. They're tied up with a bunch of sparkly ribbons anyway, and trust me, sparkles taste gross, so they don't have to worry about me eating them. There's even a tree inside my house. I don't know why they want to bring a tree inside. They put a bunch of glowing bugs all over it and a bunch more of that sparkle stuff. It's like they really don't want me near it for some reason. Lots of stuff is changing, but I'm just glad that my family is still my family. I love my house, and I'm really glad that we all have each other. Anyway, so one morning I heard my parents get up early and they started opening up those square things. Inside was lots of fun stuff and even some things for me. I got this really cool collar that I know everyone at the park will be really jealous of. When all the square things were open and I thought we might go back to sleep because everyone looked really tired, Dad told me, "Go get it." Mom looked confused since she hadn't seen me get anything yet. Dad always made sure she wasn't around when he had me practice, so I wanted to make sure I did impress her. I ran into my crate and found the thing that Dad put there and had told me to leave it. I brought it out and dropped it on the floor at Mom's feet. She looked really confused at first, but I knew she was happy when I saw her smile. People don't show teeth when they're angry, which I thought was a little weird, but now I know that people are a bit different than me. But we all love the same. She picked up the bright yellow socks off the floor and laughed and said she loved them, especially the books all over them. I don't know what books are, but they sound like something tasty. I knew that Dad was really proud of me for doing such a good job when he gave me the last square thing. Dad hid it from me, but inside was a giant bone. I was really happy, and now I sleep with that in my crate instead of their socks. I really like Square Thing Indoor Tree Sparkle Day a lot. But most of all, I just love that I got to spend it with my family. How cute of a story. Told from the dog's point of view. Okay, day 7. And for day 7, we have the socks with books all over them. And they're very soft too. Super cute. And these are by Chicklet Designs, which I think is the Once Upon a Book Club people. I just love them. Okay, now on to the last story for part 2. And we'll do the rest for part 3. So, day 8. It was at the exact moment that Tiffany was struck with an epiphany that she couldn't find a pen. As a journalist, she never left the house without some sort of writing utensil. Yet she had flown out the door in such a rush, she only had time to grab her phone and keys. She was always one to put her work first and her personal life second, so running out of her home at 1:30 a.m. wasn't something out of the ordinary. What was bizarre about today was the fact that her car decided it was time for her to slow down. Her vehicle sat at the bottom of the hill, sputtering on the shoulder of the road, and while she thought she might get some work done, her car wasn't going to let that happen, and seemingly made all pens in the vicinity disappear. She had only just gotten the call through to the tow truck company and stated her location when her phone clicked off dead. All she could do at this point was hope they sent someone her way and perhaps they'd arrive in a tow truck. Grateful was an understatement for how she felt about the mild evening air, especially for this late in December, and she spared her car the wasted energy and turned the key to the off position. She exhaled loudly, fogging up the windows as she stared off into the dark, trying to burn the idea floating through her head into her memory before it drifted away like smoke. Rolling her eyes simultaneously as her head turned, she knew somewhere a pen had to exist in this car. It often looked like a rundown office supply store, stacked with scrap paper with illegible scribbles and chewed pen caps littering the floor mats. Reaching under her passenger seat, she felt around until she came up with a bent pocket notebook. But despite her best efforts, she couldn't find a pen. This is the last time I let Mom clean out my car, she thought. She mindlessly reached for her phone and tossed its useless shell onto the dashboard as she climbed over the center console into the back seat to peek into the trunk. Meanwhile, her idea continued to flutter around the car as though just trying to find a way out, punishing her for not being able to capture it on paper. As she reached into the trunk, a blur of yellow flashing lights passed by and pulled to a stop in front of her car. With a sigh of relief, she climbed out of the car and waved at the driver. Sorry about the wait. Your phone cut out before we could get the full address. Just glad I found you," rang a man's voice as he stepped out of the driver's seat. Tiffany squinted into the lights, unable to make out his face. "Oh, no problem. My phone died, so I'm just glad you were able to track me down. Out of curiosity, you wouldn't happen to have a pen, do you? I always have a backup, so feel free to keep it." He looked into her eyes as he said it, before he walked back toward the truck, rubbing the nape of his neck and turning around to look at her for a second, catching her off guard again as his lips parted into another captivating grin. She blushed and said a thank you as she turned back to her car. Inside, she rolled the pen between her fingers and caught the inscription, "I cannot live without books." Her heart stopped. She glanced back at him through the windshield. He's a reader. She stared at her notebook and realized she had completely forgotten what it was she wanted to write down. Maybe work could wait for the moment. Okay, now on to the day 8 gift, which is in this cute little box here. And as I guessed, it is a pen. And this pen says, "I cannot live without books." It's a nice pen too. I like it. Alright, so that's it for part 2. Which story did you like the best? Which gift did you like the best? Comment down below and let me know. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, give me a big thumbs up. If you'd like to see more videos like this, click that subscribe button down below. And until next time, remember to always be completely you.